I love this place. You can hear me? I think this is the best, seriously, the best headset thing I've ever, let's see if it doesn't break. Sometimes intuitive energy does funny things. Apparently that's happened here before. So hi. So good to see you. Love the atmosphere here. Love the people that come here. I love the whole thing. If I could pick it up and put it in all sorts of different communities, I would, because I think this building just emanates this beautiful vibe that you guys all are a piece of. So I was thinking last night about how I wanted to approach this. I've actually been thinking about it since they booked me. But there's something that struck me, and when something strikes you, when something kind of comes to you and then holds you, you're supposed to do it. So I'm going to read something to you. There's a song that Barbara Streisand sings in A Star Is Born. Did you guys see that movie? Is everybody, am I older than everybody here? And it's called The Woman in the Moon. And I believe she wrote it. It's from about 1976. I was warned as a child of 13 not to act too strong. Try to look like you belong, but don't push, girl. Save your time and trouble. Don't misbehave. I was raised in a no, you don't world. Overrun with rules. Memorize your lines and move as directed. That's an age-old story. Everybody knows that's a worn-out song. But you and I are changing that tune. We're learning new rhythms from the woman in the moon. Beautiful, right? And I thought it was really fitting today because we're talking about expressing our truth. And I'm a mom of 3, and I think I still have taught my children how to follow the rules because, well, for various reasons, but hopefully I've taught them how to be themselves and speak up within those rules. So for instance, you might have a question for me and you're not asking it right now because I'm speaking. That's a rule, right? That's a good one. But there are other ones, obviously, that aren't so good and that don't work, and one of them is about being who we are. So we're all metaphorically speaking that man or woman in the moon. And though speaking our truth isn't always popular, it's a really good thing to do. And I have become a pro at it because I believe you can say almost anything. It's just the way that you say it. And it's the energy behind what you're saying. You guys know when I say energy, obviously you guys know what I mean. So right now, and I'm not going to talk exactly about politics, but I'm going to reference, there's a lot going on. Clearly, this is a very exciting time. It's a time of change. It's wonderful, and it really actually is. But there are some things that we don't want to say. We don't want to open up a can of worms, and it isn't because we're cowards. It's because you have to know your audience. And when you speak, that's what I want to talk about, is knowing your audience. Because if you say something because you need to say it, that's one thing. But if you say something because you want to add to the pot that's going, to things that are happening and be in a positive light, that's another. And you really want to think about why you're saying it. So what's your intent? If you want to say something sort of bold, what's your intent? And you don't have to think about it that hard. You just have to know what you're feeling. So if you're feeling good and you want to add to something, that's awesome. You add it. But if you think, I'm not agreeing with them, and I'm going to show them how wrong they are, that energy is going to beget that same energy. And it's actually not going to be effective. So you have to choose when you say something and how you say it. I remember being in my very early teens, my first year in college. Actually, I was living with a friend's family because there was no other place for me to go at the moment to be in school. And my friend and I decided that we should tell her parents that I'm a psychic. And it was seriously, I always say it was coming out of the closet. And we were so nervous, and we rehearsed it, excuse me, and so we're like, kind of both of us are so shaking because she's worried they're not going to accept it, and I'm worried they're not going to accept it, and there was all these feelings behind it, and I hadn't really talked a lot about it. Dia, Malin, I'm a psychic. And we waited. And they said, okay. Do you know what that means? We asked, no. Do you want to? No. That's pretty much how it went. So, but our intent was to help them understand whatever. And my intent was to come clean. And so it was good. And that's the intent. So for me, speaking my truth is saying things that I feel like, God bless you, that I need to say because it feels like I need to say it. I'm driven to say it. I'm pulled to say it. And also I feel like it's going to add something, right? Because otherwise, why spill your energy? Otherwise, why say anything at all? But what about when you live in a world where there's all these rules, and then how do you make your way through that? You have fun. That's how you do it. That's how you do everything. That's how you become more intuitive. That's how you bring love to you. That's how you find the right, I was just talking about my book and the shopping thing in my book, in my second book. That's how you do everything. And so that's one of the reasons the vibration in this room is so beautiful, is because there's a lot of love. There's love for each other in this place, and there's just love in your hearts, or you wouldn't be driven to be here, right? So, of course, I have to get back to my notes because there's so much poetry in them. Not that stuff I wrote. That's good too, but I like Barbra Streisand. Wherever we're guided to go, there's a lot of power. So where your soul guides you, there's where your power is. And there's where you can find, shall I say this, shall I not? Shall I open up? Shall I not? And so when I say that, I mean, do you guys ever feel like you're physically pulled? Like you just are physically pulled? That's part of your soul, of course, guiding you. And it feels good to you, and it feels peaceful to you, you're in the right place, and you're doing the right thing. If you're kind of catching your breath and it's not nerves, maybe not so much on that. So, but your spirit's going to tell you what it is you need to do and where it is you need to go to fulfill whatever it is you came here to fulfill. And I personally believe that we're all here, all of us are here to bring joy for ourselves and to add that joy into this world. I used to think that there was this big soul purpose and we had to meet it and we had to concentrate on it and we had to keep on our path, but that's not really how it works, because the way you stay on your path is by enjoying it. It's kind of like when people say to me, what's my guide's name? What Indian is my guide? Because a lot of people think that it's got to be an Indian or a famous person. And it's like, and how will I recognize my guide's voice? And I said, well, you hear it all the time. That's why you can't differentiate between your own voice and your guiding voice, because it's in you all the time. Just like this is a beautiful building, but you don't have to go into a building to feel God or a higher power, whatever you call that. It's with you all the time. So that's an important thing to know, that you always have this guidance within you. And the way that you load it up is by doing things like wearing what you want to wear. I'm a shoeaholic, so wearing the boots you want to wear, the shoes you want to wear, feeling like you feel whole with whatever you put on, being with people that you really enjoy, eating foods that feel good to you, not just when you eat them, but afterwards. See, kind of there's a trick there. Got to feel good afterwards, too. And I mean even minus the guilt, like just the feeling in your body when you're done eating it. Just doing these things that feel right to you and feel good to you, when you start to do that, things open up for you. Jobs come to you that you wouldn't know, volunteer jobs, whatever kind of jobs. You can get pregnant faster if that's what you're choosing to do, or if the higher part of you wants to do that. There are all sorts of things that can happen, but the smaller things too. You find a food that you've been looking for a long time. Somebody delivers something to you from Amazon that you didn't even know you wanted, but you were thinking in the back of your mind. There are all these things that can happen when you follow your own soul's guidance. And then the words that you want to say come out of your mouth. And you don't have to overthink it. So I always have stuff that I've written down before I speak, because it keeps me on the path of what I want to say, and so I keep checking it to make sure I'm not going in a different direction. But really, I'm listening to my own soul's guidance. And I was just talking to some people out there before I came on, and I was talking about this. I've written 2 books. I have a series called The Happy Medium. There's another one, but it's not a happy medium. That's going to be coming out, hopefully, in the next couple of years. And I wrote it because I found that I was depressed. Something was happening in my life, and I didn't even know I was depressed, because I always thought depression was what I had when I was a young person, 18. So I'm driving in my car, and I probably told this story last time I was here, and all of a sudden a truck slides and almost hits me, and I'm all alone in my car, and I went, oh, that truck almost hit me. That might have hurt. And then I went, oh my God, I'm not even having an appropriate response. I must be depressed. So I went and I got help. And that help didn't work out as well as the help that I got after that. And I started writing all the things that I've told people when I do readings. I've done this for 30 years. And the things that the affirmations that I've written to help empower people. And I went, wow, this is good. This might help people because it's really helping me. And so you think that you can get yourself in or out of a situation, but sometimes you need help, right? Sometimes when it's written in front of you, when you have something to follow, like when you're cooking directions, you can kind of deviate a little. It really helps you. So that's what I did, is I wrote my way out of my depression in a lot of ways, and then I published the book, and what I like about it is there's things in it that if you're feeling a certain way, you kind of dial in to say, I have to go shopping, or I'm looking for love, or here's one, I'm feeling really guilty about something, and I'm letting that be the driving force. So I'm letting my guilt instead of my gut lead me. Doesn't work. And so there's things in there that I've done to help me kind of bring myself back to center. And the big thing is, again, it's all about the joy. Every single thing is about the joy. Anybody here consider themselves intuitive? I just love this. I'm used to dealing with corporations, and people are like, well, sort of. And you know they are. So as I was writing, and as I always write, I'm thinking there's all these people that have these amazing things that they talk about in the books, on TV, movies, about how can people be more intuitive. And I've always said your feelings are the wings of your intuition, which is always true. But what more do we need? And I'm thinking, well, I'm just not really good at pulling stuff out of the air. It's got to come to me, and I'm like, I'll just get happy and I'll figure it out. And went, oh, that's it. It's all just about happiness. So that's what I'm saying is the biggest thing you can do, whatever you want, is feeling joyful brings it to you. Everybody. And walking around and feeling good feels good anyway. So if you don't get the exact thing that you want, you're not going to really care because you want it because it's going to make you happy, so why not just be happy? And right? And being happy doesn't mean everything's perfect. In fact, I think that's kind of the opposite. It means it's not contingent on everything being perfect, because what's perfect? Because we're going to always want things. We're going to always want different things in our lives, and I don't even just mean like a coat. We're just going to want. But if you can feel good just because you feel good, watch how things roll your way. Watch how you have the guts, or as my people say, the chutzpah, to just come out and say it in a kind way. Again, you have to know why you're saying it. You have to know if you're trying to teach somebody something and they're not asking, again, not your audience. Doesn't really matter. But if you're saying it because you feel like you need to and you need to be empowered, so I've been around a lot of very conservative people. I'm a corporate psychic. I'm around conservative people quite often. That's fine. I grew up like that. I'm comfortable in that too, and I don't really care if they're not comfortable with me. So they're comfortable with me, right? When they're talking and I don't agree, which happens, I just think, that's their carpet, I'm staying on my carpet. So, or yoga. When you're doing yoga, you're always told to stay on your own mat, which means that you don't look at somebody else's yoga pose because that's not your body. Your body's going to do something different, so that's what you do. You stay on your own mat. So I stay on my own mat and I don't say something. But if it's something that really matters to me and I feel like I will be betraying myself for not saying something, I choose the right moment. And I think I could say something now and I feel complete panic. That's a no. I say, I'm going to say something. Even if I say it for myself, I'm going to say something to myself or to somebody else. Please, universe, please, intuition, show me the way to do that. So I've had kids, so I went to the powder room, and guess who I saw? I saw the person who was saying these comments that I felt offended by. But I didn't walk up to him and say, you're offending me, because that's not staying on my carpet. I just said, I love that you are aware of how you feel about these things and that you're passionate. I'm equally passionate. And I'm on the complete other side of this. I believe this about children, I believe this about guns, and I said, but I love that you have your own opinion, and I'm sure it's all right with you that other people have their own opinions. And he said, yeah, if we can talk about it like this. But that's the thing, is if you're telling somebody they're wrong, you're not really expressing yourself. You're trying to teach them a lesson, and they're not asking, and you're not the teacher. They're the teacher. Everybody's their own teacher. But saying it is a good thing. If you can find a way to do it where you don't feel afterwards, anybody roll over in bed going, I should have said something. I should have. Well, that's how you do that. You ask your intuition, how do I handle this? What's the audience? What if I never ran into that person? Then I would figure out a way to say it another way, because I know it. I know how I feel. I know how I vote. I know how I give money. I know how I do that. I know how I live. So how they do it is okay, because I know how I do it. Just like the cells in your body, if you load yourself up with feeling good, that helps your immune system. And I really believe that when we load ourselves up with feeling good about what we think and how we feel and our beliefs, that loads up the Earth's immune system. Because it's wonderful that everybody has their own opinion. I actually think it is. It makes the world interesting. We're not going to always agree. In this room, we're not going to always agree about certain subjects. But we can express ourselves safely when we say, why am I saying this? What do I need to say to feel good? Is this my audience, and how do I do it? Does that make sense? And in everything, I use my intuition. But again, I go to my joy because that's how I use my intuition. So I always say, be your own superhero. Stand up, speak up, and light up. Because when you do that, literally, you light up. Does anybody read auras here or see energy? I know someone does, okay. So you can see people's energy literally pop when they start talking about something they believe in, or they have a lot of love around them. And the energy actually, it looks different to different people, but mine often looks like a ball around me. And that protects me from anything negative that's not attracted to me anyway. But when that energy, when you light up like that, and then your energy touches someone else's energy that you're near, and the energy lights up even more, the whole space becomes lighter, and more good things are drawn to us. And I'm sure you've heard this, and it's all true. I just happen to use my intuition to spark it. So, here's something else I wrote. Anybody ever feel like they don't fit in? If you feel like you don't fit in, it's probably true. You've grown and outgrown old, worn-out thoughts and beliefs. The world is bigger and more beautiful to you now, and the expanded you is already embracing it. Right? So it's okay to not fit in. I don't even know who wrote this. I've never been able to find who wrote it, but a picture of a butterfly and a caterpillar at a high-top table at a restaurant, and the caterpillar is saying, "You've changed." Kind of with that shaming, go back to where you were, and the butterfly's rocking it, like, another glass of wine. It's all good. But again, that's because the butterfly is staying on her own carpet. And the caterpillar probably misses the butterfly, but isn't staying on his own carpet. That's just the way I look at it. So then I get really offended by people sometimes, probably more than sometimes. And so I've had, because my reactions are big, mediums' reactions are giant. Giant, giant, giant. So I've had to say to myself, I'm having this big of a reaction, and it probably is more fitting for it to be this big. So what's going on? And I don't mean more fitting something appropriate. I mean more fitting like, I'm going to think later this isn't the right thing. And that's where I always bring it back to what's happening for me and why am I having that response? Because there's so much power in knowing how I feel. And there's power in knowing that, because when you know how you feel, you can light yourself back up. And I don't mean by a cigarette. I think the truth, our truth, puts us in an awkward, we feel like we're put in an awkward position sometimes with that. Like if we're changing, it's awkward to be in a situation that you're normally in, and it just feels kind of off, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means you're changing, and it doesn't mean it's everybody else's fault. So I like that the butterfly didn't seem to give the caterpillar the finger in this scenario. I like that the butterfly was like, yeah, that's true. I just know it. What do they call that? Knowing your truth. And feeling it inside. I think it's incredibly empowering. When you feel that light, when something feels right to you, and you allow it to kind of be in you, and you allow it to be part of you, you absorb it, you create more of it. So I'm so sensitive. I have to do a lot of meditation before I'm in a crowd like this. And part of the reason I keep standing here is because I'm taking a break, because nobody's doing this to me. This is how sensitive. All of your feelings, come rushing at me, because that's just the way it is. I'm sensitive, I can feel it. And so when I stand here, it gives me a break for a second. I can't believe I can admit this in this crowd, it's so fun. And then I'm good again. And I just know that about me. That's just who I am. I can't be in a huge crowd for a huge length of time because that's what happens for me. So I'm all right with that because I'm staying on my carpet with it. But if I was absorbing your feelings and was upset about it and took it out on you, I'm not staying on my own carpet. That's not, and who doesn't do that sometimes, right? But when I do it, when I get that I'm irritated and it's really not to do with anybody else, no matter what they've said, it's my own reaction, how empowering is that? To know that you're really, you're your own little island that way. And if somebody says something to you that you don't like, that's all right. You don't have to like it. Somebody said to me, I don't really believe in psychics or mediums. And I said, okay. And they said, I think you're a fake. And I said, oh, okay. And they said, you don't have anything to say about that? And I said, no. No. The first time I was on Twin Cities Live, we talked about that in the introduction. I've been on the show since 2009. And how cool is Minneapolis, St. Paul, that the response from having a psychic showcasing intuitive capabilities is still one of the most popular things they've got on for regular guests. I think that's amazing. And I'm filled with appreciation. I'm getting the chills just saying this. I'm filled with appreciation that I get to be part of that. It's really, really fun. The first time I was on it, they've had a couple hosts there, co-hosts, and John Hansen was the co-host at the time. And he actually came up and introduced himself to me beforehand, and so did Elizabeth, and I kept thinking to myself, how does she have such worked out arms? You know, most people would be thinking, oh man, I hope I look good before I go on TV, I hope this or that. I'm thinking, wow, she's got really good arms, because that felt good for me to float into that energy. And then he looked at me and he said, I really don't believe a thing about what you do, and it really feels like it's a vacuum salesman. That's kind of what you remind me of. Okay. But then he pretty much said that during the segment. And I'm sitting there with had my makeup done face, and I'm pinching myself right here so nobody could see me because I thought I was going to lose my cookies on live TV. And he just said, well, what do you know about this? How do you know it even works? What do you say to people that it's just a bunch of nothing? And I say, I just let my intuitive process speak for itself. And I let other people's intuition speak for itself too. And enough people understand it, and that's how it works. And he went, oh. And that was fun. So, I mean, I grew up with adversity. I grew up being the person that would talk about things that nobody else was talking about. I grew up being the person that was bopping around with frizzy hair and buck teeth and sitting on someone's lap because they felt sad and said, don't worry, you'll find someone again. And I'm 5. And I have no idea what I'm saying. But it was fun. It was fun. And then I learned some boundaries, which I'm sure my entire family was very thankful for, where I started understanding to not just blurt things out, like, Mom, you're lying. You don't really think Dad looks good in that. You think he looks fat. I don't know if I've ever told you, my friend Michelle, I don't know that I've ever told you I actually did stuff like that. Does that surprise you? So when your kids do that, you can just say, I'm just being intuitive. And I know you're being intuitive too. So I would like to know if you have any questions about how you can learn to express yourself even better through your intuition and through your joy about anything. Well, one thing I will tell you is it's a very different energy for me to be doing readings, and that's not why I'm here. I can answer questions pertaining to, well, I feel like I'm psychic, and I'll say, yes, you are, because everybody is. But it's a whole different energy, because if I start interacting with your dead people, we'll never get out of here. And we do have a microphone.
I was listening to something you spoke on YouTube, and you talked about being comfortable with your feet in both worlds. Mm-hmm. Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Like this. So, I'm a medium. I interface with those on the other side, i.e. what a lot of us consider to be dead, right? There's really no such thing, because that's kind of the joke, but on the other side. And so I can hear them, feel them, see them, smell them, touch them all of the time. And I'm here having a conversation with you, and sometimes, no offense, you're not as interesting. But I live here. I live here on this planet, in the USA, in Minnesota, and so I want to have my feet right here. I want to be here. This is what I really believe sets me apart from other people that do this work, and awesome people, by the way, who do this work, and most especially in the Twin Cities, I found a lot, is that I'm fairly mainstream, and I don't mind being mainstream. I'm sort of off kilter because I'm so mainstream, but that makes me comfortable, and that's how I maintain my groundedness, is by loving the earth and loving eating and loving my family. And when I feel like going to the synagogue, I go to the synagogue. When I feel like going to the lake, I go to the lake, and you can pray anywhere you want. That keeps me grounded, because that other realm, it isn't just spirits. It's other planets, it's other everything, it's just other energy. So I have to be very careful how I allow that energy to come in. But I have met, and I really truly mean this, some of the nicest dead people. I have, when I do readings, I meet some of the nicest spirits ever. And in this particular building, there's a ton. And they go back generation. And it's all over. And it wasn't always the perfect spot here. Sorry. And it's clean, and it's really amazing now, because people are consciously loving this space, and that cleans it up. So that's what it means, is that I like that I get that information, but there's a time and there's a place. They don't care if it says do not disturb, spirits don't, but I do. So I actually learned to be kind of bossy to spirits, because when I was a kid, and my hair was bigger than yours, and darker, to be honest with you. This isn't my real color. They'd pull my hair. They'd hide my stuff. They'd trip me. They'd say, you should do this, and it wasn't very nice. Because I wasn't happy, and I wasn't feeling loved, and so I was unprotected, and the darker energies were coming to me, because like attracts like. Just another reason to feel good, you guys, and to have love inside of you, because then you're going to attract the same energy. And now I attract great energy. And when an energy comes around me that I don't really like, I say, I don't really like you. Really. And I've been flipped off by a dead person. They actually were flipping off the person I was reading because the person wasn't admitting that they had an eating disorder and that it caused problems in their relationship. And I knew I was onto it. And I said, well, then all the other people you want to talk to, they're out, because you're not owning this, and so they're leaving. And that was the way that kind of went. But they really flipped this person off, but it hurt me, like physically, because I could feel the flip off. So I've learned to say to spirits, you can't flip somebody off when I'm reading them. You can be mad, but you can't point anything angry, because only love is in this room. And when I'm around somebody and there's a really pushy spirit, which has happened a lot, so let's say I'm standing over here and one of your grandmothers really wants to say something to you and is grabbing me and grabbing me and grabbing me. I'm saying, I'm really sorry, but that's just not an appropriate thing for me to interact with them. That's not going to help them, and that's not going to help me. And they're like, it will help them. And I'm like, well, it won't help me, and I actually am responsible for me and taking care of myself. So buzz off. And I had to start saying buzz off. Okay, next question.
Yeah. What do you do as a psychic reader if you're, get the intuition that the person is in a terrible relationship, needs to get out of it now? Or you get the intuition that that person's about to die?
So if I'm doing a reading, you can ask me the next one, but I'll forget if I don't just answer as you say them. If I'm doing a reading and I'm picking up that somebody's in a relationship that's not, it doesn't seem to me that is serving them and they don't seem safe, I really have to remember that they're doing what they're doing because their spirit says this is how I'm going to grow the most. And I'll say, I understand that your spirit's growing the way your spirit's growing. It seems to me that, I'm seeing a gun, or I'm seeing this, or have you hit this person, or have they hit you, because I'm seeing some physical, and I know that they're being hit. And they'll say that, and I'll say, well, you got to ask yourself, what does this serve for you? Because you're in it. And if you're done getting all the orange juice out of the orange, you can go. But you got to be done getting the orange juice out of orange, because if I insist that somebody leave and they do, they're going to get into a worse relationship next because they're not done working that out. That's a boundary thing, and it can be very difficult as a psychic to pick up on that, but you have to be respectful. You don't say, I don't think this is a good person for you to marry. So I'm doing something with Jim Harold. Do you guys know who Jim Harold is? He's amazing. Look him up. He's got podcasts. He's been downloaded, I think, more than any other podcast person in the paranormal world. Like, there's been many tests that have shown this. And I'm doing something with him next week on the 22nd, how to be a smart shopper when you pick a psychic. He's international, so you can look him up, Harold. And I don't want to betray any of my psychic friends that I think sometimes overstep when they'll say, don't get into that relationship. It's none of our business. We can say, I don't get energy from it. We can say, it doesn't seem like there's the exchange of love that there once was, as it changed a lot, which is a very proactive way to say, looks like you're not getting your needs met. Because they have to decide that. If you spoon feed them, they're not going to get it. So I say everything I see, I'm just careful about how I see it. I think God don't pick up when someone's going to die all the time. So I knew when my mom was going to cross. She just crossed over. I know certain things like that. It's kind of a knowing, and it can be kind of heavy, but you can be wrong, because we're interpreters. You're interpreting everything you're picking up intuitively. It comes through the lens of your own personality and your own experience. So I personally wouldn't tell somebody, this is how I'm feeling about you, because you could cause it to happen. Because you could be wrong. Sometimes death is really just a new beginning, like literally. But sometimes when we pick that up, it means something's going to change in their life. They're going to move. Something's going to happen, but it might not be death. So that, to me, in my personal opinion, is territory that I wouldn't step. I would say it looks like there's a new beginning. And I have had people that I've read over the years that I can feel cancer around them. And I'll say, I would suggest you see a doctor. Here's what I'm feeling in your lungs. Don't worry about it. They're showing me for a reason. There's a good thing. Does that make sense? It was a really good question, and it was a very brave question. Because you have beautiful energy, and I'm sure you're good at what you do. Let's see, this lady has a question right here.
I think she was texted and we'll go.
Okay.
There are times when I really open to my intuition, when it works, it's incredible. But there are times that my conscious mind, my sensor, starts talking me out of it. Do you have some tips for how to
Yes,
deal
and
with
that's
that?
a great, thank you for saying that, because I think we all have that voice that's running in the back of our head that says things like, you're to this, you're to that. So we can't turn the voice off, but we can replace it. We can put something else in it, in our mind, that actually starts to drown it off. So when that happens for me, and it happens, I'll say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, and I know the universe has my back. And when that information is meant to come to me, it's going to come to me. And I bring myself down by keep repeating things like that raise my vibration. And I'll say things like, I know I'm not alone. The universe has my back. So when I say that, can you feel that? Just saying that can raise your vibration. And so I don't listen for that voice, I just replace it. That's how I do that. And also, if I'm not picking something up and it doesn't feel right, I'm certainly not going to go with it, because my lens is all scratchy that way. So it's not time for me to get that information. You will get the information you are meant to get. It may come to you in a whole different way. Your neighbor's newspaper might be sitting outside their door, and you might see the answer to the question that you were thinking. I was thinking of taking a trip to Illinois, and the headline reads, Illinois, this is concerts going on in Illinois. This is how your intuition reaches you in so many different ways like that. But that's an excellent question. In fact, I write affirmations. The stuff I was reading, that's affirmations, because that's how I brought myself into a better space. And we have like a packet of them, and they're like $7, but you can get them on the internet for free too. So pick some out on the internet from Marianne Williamson or Esther Hicks, and then write them on a sticky, and when you go to bed at night, read those, and then when you wake up in the morning, read those, and that voice that kind of keeps going will calm down, because you're filling yourself with a different kind of, it's the best kind of diet. It's just good stuff. And that helps your intuition to get stronger. The reason I like putting it different places that you are is because it's a reminder. So the ones I have like hang on a door, so then I'm reminded when I go into the door in the morning, I'm gonna read it. Or I'll put them in my car, and so I know when I get into my car, that's when I'm supposed to do this for myself. And of course I'll take it down before I drive, but people have these watches, these Apple Watches that remind them to breathe, to drink, to stand up. Just think of it that way. It's a affirmation watch. Reminds you to actually say something nice to yourself.
This is piggybacking on a couple of different things we've talked about. I have, I think, at least 2 different spirits, entities that are moving things in my house. And
Helpful moving, like you need the chair over here?
No.
Oh, okay.
And so one of them, I think, does it really matter if do I need to address it specifically? I mean, some things are really specific.
Do not address it specifically, because if you address it specifically, they're going to feed on your fear. That's what they feed on. Since they're not alive in the same way, they'll feed on your emotion, and their favorite one is fear if they're doing stuff like that. Because it's your house, so it's your space. And the best thing that you can do is do things that make you feel really happy in your house. And I know right now you're probably thinking, seriously, Jodi, I thought you had more experience than that.
No,
but that is the best thing to do. You take your space back. You ever have a guest in your house that maybe didn't turn out to be the best energy? Like, I'll sage afterwards. My whole family thinks I'm nuts. I clean the towels, I sage the house. They're like, oh, here she goes again. But it's my space, and so I'm taking it back, and then I'll dance, which is a complete humiliation to my teenagers when they have friends over. But it really works. So literally, you do things that make you happy.
Okay.
And I wouldn't address the spirits, but in fact, we're going to do this at the end. There's a white light prayer that I might have done last time also that completely can help you neutralize your space. So you make sure you're happy and that you feel peaceful. You don't have to be giddy happy, that you're peaceful. And that energy gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and fills your house. And they don't really like it anymore. It's kind of like lighting lavender when an achy spirit doesn't like lavender. You're doing lavender. That's what you're doing. When your vibe gets like that, they go somewhere else. Mice go into the smallest spaces, right? They can fit into anything, but if you make it harder, they're going to go where it's easier, just like a crook. Do people still use the word crook? That's what came to me anyway. Yeah, this lady.
Can you expand a little bit more on boundaries when you were a little kid and you would blurt things out, and then your family was thankful that you had found some boundaries, about what age that occurred and how that happened and how you maintained
30-something.
Shit. Oh, shoot.
That's all right. Yeah, it took me a while, and it's a process, actually, but it got better as I started to understand. So honestly, I realized that either I would have my intuition or my intuition would have me. That this wasn't for me a choice, that it was so giant that I had to learn boundaries. And I'm old enough to say that here in the Twin Cities, there were psychics out there, but they weren't teaching boundaries. So that was like lighting you up and letting you fly out, and it doesn't work. Boundaries means my space is my space, my opinion is my opinion, my intuition is my intuition. What you think of me is none of my business. And I'm not going to even give it any airtime, because it's none of my business. That's the best boundary. And knowing that if somebody is saying things to you that's unkind, that it is as much or more about them than it is you, but because you're part of that exchange, you can quietly go look at that and see if there's any goodies, and then you let it go. But most of the time, so anybody here in a partnership where their partner sometimes bugs them? I mean, seldom, of course, if you know my husband. But I realized that I was so aggravated that he was criticizing me all the time, and he's so much like my dad, and he's a perfectionist, and I love so much about it, but criticizing everything I did, and I had curse words for him inside, and I'm powerful enough that I didn't have to say them. And he knew. And then all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, I'm criticizing him for criticizing me. And every time I think he's going to criticize me, I'm criticizing him in my head. I'm the one that's being critical. And I was mortified. Like, I'm doing that. What he's doing is his business. And the moment I started to realize that, again, I'm getting the chills, so that means there's quite a few people that have experienced something like this. The moment I started doing that, he wasn't so critical. And then I could see his light. But more importantly, you guys, I could see mine. So that's the thing about boundaries. And my family appreciated, especially since I was writing books, that I had good boundaries about what I was talking about. But it just means that, again, you don't take your communication out on everybody else. You check to see why you're saying it. Does that help? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. This is fun.
Hi, Hi, Jodi. Thanks
Hi.
for being here. I have a question about your mediumship process in private readings because a lot of us have seen mediums on TV, obviously, and each medium works different. So I wondered if you could talk about like your preparation and if you're working in the session with your guides or their guides, if you tell them if you see their guides, and if you know if it's going to be mediumship or spiritual coaching or of a blend. So just interested in about your process, because I've had a reading with you and they were phenomenal, but I can't really explain it to people.
So what I do is I make sure that I'm not hungry. I can't say I make sure I'm not rested because I only had 3 hours of sleep last night because I was so excited, so that for me isn't. But I make sure that I'm physically taken care of as much as I can and that I'm in an atmosphere that I feel safe. And as you know, my office to me feels like a hug. And then I sit and I listen to myself breathe. And then I pray. God, please help me be of service and bring to this person what they most need for the highest good of all. That's what I say. And then I listen to myself breathe. And that icky voice goes away in the back of my head. And I open up. And I start to feel and see and smell things about that person, like the picture on the screen in my head starts to come up. That's psychic, the psychic piece. Because I'm a psychic and I'm a medium. All mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So I'm both. That's the screen, that's the psychic part. That knowing feeling at the very beginning is the psychic part, and then I am directed by their dead people and their guides. For me, and it's all personal because it's what you are, it's how you see things, their guides and my guides will sit right here, and the dead people drop in front. And I have fun saying that, by the way, you guys, because obviously they're not really dead people. They're spirits, and we're all spirits, but they don't have a body. So a lot of them think they do in some ways, though, because they'll show me their body, because it helps the person I'm reading. And I am brought the information that will help them most. So if you really want to talk to your Aunt Greta, and your Grandpa Max comes through, don't blame me, because I don't call spirits to me. It's against my religion, and even if it weren't, I wouldn't do it. I do not call spirits to me, but if they have something to say and they know I'm going to be with somebody, they'll be around. That's just the way it works. That's how they do it. So I'm not drawing them to me, and I'm not sitting by a grave and trying to bring up the bones, and that's what some people think mediums do. So, and then you say, okay. Right? Does that answer your question?
I think we have time for one more. One more question?
Hi, my name is Adele, and I did do a 30-minute phone session with Jodi, and it went really well. And I plan to do another hour because I didn't have enough time. And so my question for you is what do you do when you get stuck? You know, your intuition is flowing, and you get to a perfect point, and then you're stuck.
So when you feel like you're stuck, you're not. You're supposed to pause. So you just say, I'm pausing, and that's all right. If I fight with it, I'm done. But if I say, okay, this is how I'm feeling and it's all right, I just pause, then information will start to come in again. It might look a little bit different. But it's sort of like people, I never look at anybody that's talking about writer's block because I feel like that can cause it. So I'll say you're supposed to pause. And then anything that you get, you're supposed to be getting. Everything that happens is supposed to be happening. You guys are orchestrating your lives beautifully. And if you feel like you're stuck, you're just supposed to pause. And you just say, okay, I'm in the pause. I'm going to enjoy the pause. I don't really get scared about it. That's why I wear lipstick. Because I seriously will think, I'm fine. I feel good. I have good boots on and I have lipstick, so I'm all good. Sounds silly, but it works. Okay, so this was so fun. I could do this for like 8 hours. Do you feel energized? It's fun, isn't it? And you probably, this question over here was something that you were thinking over here, because that's the way it works. And I mean this when I say this. Perfectly orchestrated. You all knew that you would be here together, and all of your energy makes up an energy, and there were questions here that most people had, or a few people had, or someone was struggling with but didn't have the guts to ask, or just doesn't like to public speak. And that's the way it works. So let your intuition guide you when you want to say something. Let your intuition be that guidance. Let yourself say that I feel empowered by that. Think about it this way. When you feel like your string is drawing you and you feel happy inside, that's your intuition saying yes. But when you don't feel that and you want to speak up, then it's not going to be the right moment, but you'll have your right moment. And that's what you should know. Your life is wonderful, even the struggles that we have, and I have them also. Life is wonderful. And if you focus that way, life is more wonderful. But if you focus on the things that didn't go perfectly, then that's what you're going to get. So you don't have to worry about speaking up because your truth will come out. You just have to have the confidence that it will. That's just it. You just have the confidence that it will. And if it doesn't, then you just say, okay. Or you go, okay. So I do have some online things happening. People have been asking me about that, so please check my website. And does anybody here do Twitter? Oh, really? Oh, that's so interesting to me. No social media or just a little social media? See, I have fun when I'm working from home. I feel like I'm visiting with everybody, and it's a fun way to pop energy. So I was going to say, I don't have that many followers on Twitter, so please follow me. But no, never mind. This was super fun. It was great to have an energy exchange with you. Thank you very much. Oh, Jodi Livon.
Thank you. Let's give Jodi a...
Thank you. So, inside of your belly, concentrate on the inside of your belly for a minute and think about someone that you love. And feel that love grow inside of you. Feel it completely fill every cell in your body and fill it with light. And know that that love is part of you and is with you always, and that who you're loving can feel that. And I am going to do something I love to do every time I do anything like this, and it's called the white light prayer. White light is consuming us. White light is protecting us. White light is surrounding us. The divine love is flowing in and through us, solving and dissolving all situations for the good of all. A higher power is in charge of our lives, so only good can come through us. Our minds are open, our hearts are receptive, and miracles are happening right now. May we see the light in everything and everyone around us. May we respond only to the light in everything and everyone around us, and most especially to ourselves. May we be filled with forgiveness and love, and know that we are safe and that the universe has our back. Amen.
Amen.